After a really hectic couple of weeks, the Heisman race is really beginning to narrow down to only a handful of players. However, it still looks like it could be anyone's award, as one bad week can ruin a player's chances. Today, I'll be giving you guys my top 5 for the Heisman as we enter week 13 of the college football season. Before we get to my list, make sure to click that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. But before I get to my top 5, I thought I'd share with you some honorable mentions. Prior to the season beginning, Kellen Mond said this year's Texas A&M team could be like last year's LSU team. Though we all laughed when he said that, he hasn't been wrong so far. Texas A&M is currently the number 5 team in the country, and there's an outside chance they could reach the college football playoff. With them potentially reaching the playoff, have you really heard Kellen Mond's name mentioned even once this year? It seems like he's really been flying under the radar. Maybe it's because the Aggies haven't played in about 3 weeks, which has impacted Mond's numbers on the season. However, he's still been really good, as he's completing 65% of his passes for 1,500 yards. He's thrown 16 touchdowns compared to only 2 interceptions. He likely won't finish in the top 5 unless he really has a strong finish to the season, but he'll definitely be receiving some votes at the end of the year. He was one of the early season favorites, and a few early losses completely ended his chances, but Spencer Rattler is beginning to pick up some real momentum and very well could find himself as a finalist if his play continues. He's been pretty good all season for Oklahoma and is only getting better on a week-to-week basis. He's completing 68% of his passes and is thrown for 2,300 yards with 22 passing touchdowns. He's also added 4 rushing touchdowns as well. He's coming off his best game of the season, accounting for 5 total touchdowns and over 300 yards in a victory against Oklahoma State this past weekend. Again, it's probably too late for him to make a strong push at winning the award, but if he keeps up these great numbers and Oklahoma can keep winning, he very well could find himself as a finalist. Here's a name you probably didn't expect to see on this list, but this guy deserves all the credit in the world. Coastal Carolina's freshman quarterback Grayson McCall has been one of the most underrated quarterbacks in all of college football this season. Not only does he have the Chanticleers undefeated and ranked in the top 15, he's been fantastic for them. On the season, he's completed 68% of his passes for 1,600 yards. He's thrown 18 touchdowns and has only 1 interception. Additionally, he's added nearly 350 yards on the ground and has 5 rushing touchdowns. Unfortunately, I can't see there being any chance he finishes in the top 10 of voting, so here you go, Grayson. Here's the recognition you rightfully deserve. You can make the case that Najee Harris has been the best running back in college football this season, and I would totally agree with your argument, but I have another running back just slightly above him who is going to be in my top 5. But this is something that can change on a week-to-week basis. Yet again, Alabama has another unbelievable running back. In 7 games, Harris has rushed for 800 yards, averaging just under 6 yards per carry. He leads the country with 16 rushing touchdowns as well. He's also been really valuable in the passing game, as he has 22 catches for over 200 yards. The crazy thing is, Harris's numbers could be a lot better, but it's tough to play all 4 quarters when his team is up by 30 during each 4th quarter. When you think of the best wide receiver in college football, DeVonta Smith immediately comes to mind. He's been fantastic for Alabama this season and has been putting up some insane numbers. In only 7 games, he's already caught 65 passes for 900 yards and 10 touchdowns. Assuming Alabama would make the national championship and play a 15-game regular season, he'd be on pace for 140 catches, 1,930 receiving yards, and 21 receiving touchdowns. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Just over his last 2 games, Smith has caught 20 passes for 250 yards with 6 touchdowns. It really is a shame that wide receivers can't compete for the Heisman, because Smith is more than deserving of taking home this trophy. Alright, those are my honorable mentions. Time to get to my top 5. Cracking the top 5 and any of my lists for the first time all season is Breece Hall from Iowa State. Yes, I know, I've been sleeping on him all year, but now he has my respect and is in my top 5 for this list. What Hall has been doing this season for the Cyclones is nothing short of spectacular. He leads the country in rushing yards with just under 1,200 and is averaging 6.5 yards per carry. He's tied for second in the country with 15 rushing touchdowns, but he very well could be in first by the end of next week. Hall has rushed for at least 100 yards every game this season and has at least 2 rushing touchdowns in 7 of his last 8 games. Iowa State will likely need to finish near the top of the Big 12 if he has any hope of being a finalist. But he's proven to be one of the best at the position so far in 2020. Justin Fields can still win this award, but Indiana made him look human this past weekend. After an incredible start to the season, Fields looked really sloppy at times this weekend against the Hoosiers. Now, he still had a decent game as he threw for 300 yards with 2 touchdowns while adding 80 yards and a score on the ground. But he did have 3 interceptions. Ohio State also plays only 4 games to close out the season, and it's a very weak schedule. it's not going to look good when you see his 3 interceptions against the only good team he played all season. Fields will put up monster numbers for the next 4 weeks, and Ohio State's going to win out and go undefeated, but I don't think that'll be enough for him to make a case to win the award. Before I get to my top 3, if you could please take a second and give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It takes only 1 second, and it helps this video reach more college football fans. If BYU played in a Power 5 conference, Zack Wilson would likely be the favorite for this award. He's proven he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's likely going to be a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft, and many think he could even crack the top 10. Now, there's no denying his talent. There's no denying his incredible numbers either, as he's completing 74% of his passes for 2,700 yards with 26 touchdowns. He's also a force on the ground, as he's added 8 rushing touchdowns. But the problem is, BYU hasn't played anybody. The only somewhat respectable opponent he's faced has been Boise State. Now, he did light them up for 4 total touchdowns and nearly 400 total yards, but I sadly don't think that'll be enough for voters. If BYU can somehow play a game against a Pac-12 opponent, more notably Oregon, and he can defeat the Ducks and put up good numbers doing it, that'll make this conversation very interesting. Unfortunately, I just don't think that'll happen. However, he definitely deserves to be a finalist. I think that this is currently a 2-man race for the Heisman, but like I said earlier, things can change on a week-to-week basis. As of now, it's a fairly even race, and I think either one of these guys is more deserving to be number 1. But for now, I'm going to give my number 2 spot to Mac Jones. He's been great so far this season for Alabama, as they're undefeated and the number 1 team in the country. He's completing 77% of his passes for 18 touchdowns. The reason why I'm giving him the number 2 spot is because he has arguably the best weapons surrounding him. Now, this is no knock on him at all, but him having the best wide receiving core in the country definitely helps. It also helps having arguably one of the best running backs in the country too. This will be a fun race to see if he can overtake who I currently have at my number 1 spot. Kyle Trask is on pace to have a historic season for Florida. Had this been a full season, there's a good chance he could have taken down all the records Joe Burrow set last season in his Heisman winning season. Through 7 games, Kyle Trask is completing 71% of his passes for 2,500 yards with 31 passing touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. Assuming he would keep this pace and Florida would play a normal 15-game season, assuming they went to the national championship, Trask would have 66 passing touchdowns on the season. He had at least 4 touchdowns through his first 6 games and somehow only threw 3 this past weekend against Vanderbilt. The impressive part is he's been doing this without an insanely good wide receiving core. We saw the weapons Joe Burrow had last year and the weapons Mac Jones currently has this year. Now, Trask does have Kyle Pitts, the best tight end in the country, but he's missed a lot of time this year. Kadarius Toney and Trayvon Grimes have been good this year and are solid receivers, don't get me wrong, but they're not consensus All-Americans. What Trask has been doing this season for the Gators has been extraordinary, and I think now it's officially his Heisman to lose. Well, there you have it. Those are my top 5 players who I currently have for the Heisman Trophy. What did you guys think of my list? Was there a player you thought I was too high on, or is there a player not on this list that definitely should have been mentioned? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't done so yet, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more college football content. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.